Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for a Garden Club virtual program. And we are here tonight to talk about a different kind of landscaping featuring the 6 Feet Away Gallery. And I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Denise Reagan. I'm the Executive Director of the Garden Club, and I'm here with my colleague, Damien. Damien, you want to say hi?
Hello.
Damien Lamar Robinson is our operations manager, and we couldn't be more happy than to be with you here in between rain showers. And we are very excited to bring these virtual programs to you with the help of the Jessie Ball DuPont Fund, whose support is allowing us to put on programs just like this. We always like to start off with a poll to take the temperature. Hopefully not because you have any kind of illness, but take your social temperature, you might say. And so we're going to launch a poll that you can all participate in. And we want to know, what kinds of things do you have in your home landscape? Do you have containers? Do you have flower beds? Maybe a rock garden, edibles, artwork? Or if you have other things, why don't you share it in the chat and tell us about it? And we're about 80% voted. Got a few more coming in, and I'm going to 3, 2, 1 in the poll. And Damien, tell us how people voted.
All right. Wow. Okay. Pretty good. Looks like about, I would say about half and half. A lot of people have containers in their gardens with their landscape at home. The landscapes also consist of flower beds. 50% voted and said they have edibles. And surprisingly, about 56% of people also have artwork as part of their landscape. So impressive.
And what were some of the answers in the chat? Were there any?
Let's see. Yep, there's a lot of a lot of native plants, according to Kate. Michelle Worley also has a few flowers and plants and some pots and some elephant ears that I'm going to be taking off her hands pretty soon. So, all right. Can you hear me better now? Is this much better?
The testing, 1, 2.
Yep. Okay. I kind of turned my volume up on my end a little bit, so you guys a little bit. Okay. Very good.
Okay, so we will first introduce our guest for the evening. Shawana Brooks is an artist, advocate, and curator from Vallejo, California. She is a spoken word poet, public speaker, performer, and writer whose art revolves around the expression of the written and oral word. She is interested in the comprehension of human emotion through the use of language and describes moments from her traumatic personal experiences to create social sharing. She uses her personal platforms to create dialogue on social justice issues that preclude Black women. Shawana was awarded the Cultural Council of Greater Jacksonville Robert Arlie White Award for Artist Advocacy. She is a recipient of the Community Foundation of Northeast Florida Art Ventures Individual Artist Grant. Her work as a developer of arts and culture has landed her the development director position at the nonprofit Jacksonville Arts and Music School. Through the extensive relationships she has built throughout Jacksonville, she tirelessly advocates for opportunities for minority artists of all ages. She recently opened a placemaking and art consulting business to serve those interests called the 6 Foot Away Gallery. And she is working on her newest public art project, Color Jax Blue, with her partner and husband, Roosevelt Watson III. Roosevelt Watson III is a painter working in surreal, abstract, and figurative modes. A native to Jacksonville, he received his BFA from the Atlanta College of Art, now the Savannah College of Art and Design. He was awarded the Savannah Individual Artist Assistant Grant and has placed first in the jury competition for the Jacksonville area Beaches Fine Art Series twice. He has participated in several group shows around the state. He is one of the featured artists at the Ritz Theater's annual art showcase, Through Our Eyes, Sensory Perception. His work has been commissioned by the Ritz Theater and the Villa Museum, the Emmanuel Church in Tampa, the Boys and Girls Club of Hilton Head, and the Cummer Museum of Art and Gardens. His paintings have been featured on the covers of Tampa Art Society, Savannah Art Scenes, Folio Weekly, and Contemporary Arts Today. We expect that you will have plenty of questions tonight. So if you have a question, please put it in the chat. You don't have to wait to ask it. We will gather them up and ask them throughout the program. But before we get started tonight, we wanted to share a video with you so that you can get a little bit of a taste of what the 6-foot gallery is all about. All right, here we go.
The love of my city and the love of the arts led to this because of COVID-19 shut everything down.
And then as quarantine came and moved around social distancing, we had to figure out how could we still stay connected. My name is Shawana Brooks. I'm one of the creators of the 6 Feet Away Gallery, as well as just somebody who's really passionate about our city of Jacksonville.
My name is Roosevelt Watson III, and I am the visual artist and muscle of 6 Feet Away Gallery.
What's going on, man? It's
show I was preparing for got canceled because we couldn't come into contact with one another.
I didn't come into this with any expectations. I actually just wanted a reset. I think I missed being a curator. My husband missed being able to exhibit and put his work out there to talk back to people.
The relationship with my wife and knowing that we couldn't be still, without having art.
And we thought, what better than to start with our neighbors? There was a freedom behind being able to put a piece that would normally be hung inside in a wall on a gallery, now outside free in space. So I've been thrilled to see how we keep talking more and more and providing programs, all from the safety of our backyard.
That was awesome. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can go live to Shawana. And Shawana, I don't know if there you are. How are you?
I'm so good. Hello, everybody. I also seen that one of your viewers said that they're from the Bay, E40. It's also a little bit relegated that he might be my cousin. So yeah, like go Bay Area. But I'm doing well. Thanks, guys.
Well, I wanted to kind of make this a bit of a conversation tonight and basically just give you some open-ended questions so you can tell your story.
Okay.
Wanted you to tell us about the journey that helped you create the 6 Foot Away Gallery. When did you first move to the house on West 15th Avenue?
Yeah, so we moved over here about almost, I'm kind of getting a little bit off. It might be almost 4 years. And 4 years in October. So we were living in Murray Hill. We love that area as well. We're really close to like parks and, Vagabond had just opened up and there was just all these other exciting things. And then our landlord, of course, came and was like, he has this opportunity to sell his home and we had to move fairly quickly. And lucky, it just kind of was, again, serendipitous in the way that we found this place and walked in and thought we were being punked because it was almost like the exact same layout of the house that we lived in previously. And we just fell in love, not only with the home, but of course with its yard. We love green spaces and being outside and celebrating in that way. And I saw the yard and just got all the tingles. It reminded us of a house that we had. We stayed in Savannah. So we've always been really blessed as renters to come into these great yards.
Well, speaking of yard, Shawana, tell us about the journey well, actually, what your concerns have been when for renters like you when it comes to having landscaping.
Yeah. So again, beautiful yard, right? But these thumbs aren't that green. And it was always nice. Of course, you move somewhere, you get lots of great gifts for your home. And plants, right? So I decided, yes, this time with this house, I was going to be a plant mama. I was going to, bring in all these different, like snake plants and different air plants and succulents, right? Because they always say you can't kill succulents. Well, I beg to differ. I killed at least 7 different types of succulents that were given to me. I killed like the house plant. I tried to water them. Maybe I overwatered them. I tried to talk to them. I might have talked them too much. It was very frustrating for me. And I've always also wanted to grow my own garden and having, again, such an expansive place to put different things out there. But I got a little bit concerned once I found out that the area that we live in is right across the way from the Environmental Protection Agency's Superfund site. It used to be a wood treatment facility that had a lot of different chemicals just sprayed across the area and not cleaned up, where I heard maybe in this community they had to clean up over a decade ago, but because it didn't result in the best way, they had to do this again. So we were one of the, I won't say few homes, but on our particular street, we were one of the few homes that they had to come and dig up all of the grass, and at least to start working about 6 feet down to dig up that dirt, and then to come in and replace it with new dirt and new sod. So we were excited in a way, because it's like, oh, a whole new yard. But because this is government funded, we did not know the grass that they were going to give us, and they decided to completely sod our yard with Bahelia hay. Bahelia hay, God bless it. My husband probably is frustrated. He has to almost mow the grass almost 3 times a week, with the way that it grows. Also kind of grows sporadic in areas. And for the longest time, if you all are familiar with the movie Pretty Woman, I felt like I was stomping on the divots. Every time I would come out into our yard, I was falling in the cracks. And so I was frustrated, because here we went from like having like this amazing space, even though we weren't sure if we could plant, our own food exactly into the ground. We were going to be thinking about above ground spaces, but it took them several months to even do this project. And by the time they were at the end of it, then we had to let the land kind of resettle. So we just didn't come out here anymore. Like it was really sad. I would get very frustrated and kind of like, shake my fist at the EPA every time. Thankfully, no, we didn't want to, we have a young child. He'll be 2 in like a month. And so we had gotten pregnant while we were over here. And a lot of people started talking about being concerned about the process that was going on. So we also were a little bit worried to bring our young son out here in that beginning until everything was settled. And I don't know, maybe again, quarantine has been this funny animal. I won't say I'm a hard worker. I'm just very consistent with being out in the community. I get a lot of my ideas and process from being amongst people, where my husband is a little bit, I won't say he's reclusive. He's definitely a people person too, but he's a home a little bit more. And this gave us a time both to be home and kind of re-engage with one another, where most of our time, or most of my time, is spent out of our home. That I kind of look back around again. I was like, oh, so the grass is settled now. Like I'm not falling all over. Our toddler was able to just run, back and forth. And as things were closing and you couldn't go to a park, like we had several parks in our community that we would just try to take him to, because we don't have that kind of equipment in our yard. And he likes the slide and the swings, but we couldn't do that anymore. And so we were very frustrated to figure out, how are we going to entertain a toddler to tire him out and get him to go to sleep? So a lot of things kind of resulted as aha moments, because we were just literally trying to run down our son.
Yeah. Well, so all these conflicting things coming at you, all at once, and then, the floor literally drops out, with COVID-19. So, tell us about the spark that like started the 6 Foot Away gallery in your mind.
Yeah. So I like to say that, that spark was probably implemented, or the seed of it, years ago. I started off always kind of involved in art. I've been a makeup artist. I've been a little bit of a puppeteer. And so I've always been so smitten with artists, just period. And as I started to gain a little bit more influence in our art community, as being like the first curator ever selected to work for the Maine Public Library, and I did that work and curated for 3 years, it really got me interested in the way that we display public art, how we also talk about it, whose public art is shown, and what are those processes. So I got invited to luckily sit on a lot of different communities and also committees and boards. And it just was incredulous to me, the access, right? One, how you even can apply to do something. So you have to, do this RFQ. If you don't have certain jobs that maybe you've done, then you don't even qualify for what this opportunity could be. If you don't even know about this opportunity, one, you're also stuck out of not applying. And so often, I think the way that we value and look at art isn't the way that we also value and look at artists. So there were all these kind of things that were popping around in my brain: public art, accessibility, inclusivity, diversity, and I've kind of put it upon myself to try to bring those opportunities, especially back to minority artists, but really to Black female artists and artists of color, because I think it's incredible that at this particular time, those women can say they are an artist. That wasn't the process of their livelihood. And so as I keep looking to make these kind of communications, and I think even within my job at Jacksonville Arts and Music School, because we're lucky enough to have a great facility on like 2 acres of land, I was already thinking then, like, how are we going to evolve a little bit more with bringing public art out to that space? But then COVID came, right? I guess also another shameless plug, I had just started an exhibition at Yellow House where I was finally going to get to be the artist, right? I wasn't curating, I wasn't galvanizing, I wasn't partnering. I was coming in and it was my words, it was my poems, and I was all psyched. And we had a great opening, and then the quarantine came and just bombarded all that. So I was depressed, honestly. I don't think I just kind of miss being out, but I do miss the dialogue that happens when you go to an art exhibition, when you go to an artistic program, when you go to a lecture. Like, I would have been all watching this if I wasn't a part of the panel or, the discussion. This would so be something that I would want to see and then to learn from and then start bubbling up and thinking. So it just kind of happened that we were cleaning up our house, as I'm sure a lot of you all can attest to, in that kind of beginning of that March, April of quarantine. The house just needed like a whole like detoxifying, right? Like just get out all the mirth and all the frankincense and just, burn it and let's cleanse this element. And in doing that, we were cleaning up everywhere, re-identifying it, making it a grown-up place and also a toddler-friendly place. My husband and I are in our 40s, so I just can't always get down with having to make so much room and space for our almost 2-year-old. So we needed a little bit of everything. We figured, again, he could have outside. And so as Roosevelt was cleaning up his studio, which I'm in, you can see a work by him behind me. I'm in nicely inside and he's outside sweating, so yay for me being inside. But as he was cleaning up his studio and we were seeing all some of the pieces that have kind of been stored for a while, I just got excited. Yes, Roosevelt's my husband, and I love him immensely. But I am honestly a fan of his art. His art changed the way that I looked at art completely. Not just falling in love with him, but falling in love with his art and his process and his practice. And his work is so metaphysical, geometrical. You're going to see a little bit more examples. You can clearly see behind me all of these kind of like shapes and colors. And we saw how our son was responding to it, right? Like this is prime in the time of where we're teaching him orange, blue, red, circle, square. He was identifying those things in his father's art. And I just got excited again because Roosevelt, our son, was born into that. I literally had just put up an exhibition, and then the next day he was born 13 weeks early, right? So he was born into this art community, and I think he missed it a bit too. And seeing the way that he became fascinated, and then it became more than convincing Roosevelt. How do I get his work outside? So that we can kind of go on like this art tour, right? And I could talk to the son and I could curate and kind of do all the fun things again that I missed, but do it with my child. And as I was doing that, a neighbor kind of came by and was listening. Everybody loves Rosie. So he just kind of wanted to talk to our son, and just he was hearing what I was saying. And then we just started talking in the way that it always to me organically happens. Once the art is there, the conversations just start to stir up and blam. And it was like epiphany moment. Roosevelt put a few more pieces out, and I felt like the clouds opened up. Like it's just no joke. It felt like the ancestors were singing and a chorus lit up, and I thought, this is it, right? This is all of the things that I've loved, but this is the way that we could be more effective to the community that we've been trying to bring in into this art, because they don't go to any of these institutions. They don't know about exhibitions Roosevelt's been in all across the nation. They just know us, and this was a chance for them to know him as artist, and then me as curator.
That's
beautiful.
fantastic. Yeah, it's
A
pretty awesome.
mouthful.
Pretty awesome.
They want to know Clara. They want to know Clara, Shawana.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's one of the questions. Were they asking that now? I saw it come up, but I didn't know if I should be respectful
Yeah,
until the end.
This is a good time to go ahead and ask the questions that have been coming in by our participants.
Okay, awesome.
Outside of you running and chasing after Roosevelt the Fourth, one of the questions
Me
coming in,
too.
have you been able to change the RFP process or influence the RFP process that you mentioned earlier?
Oh, y'all, it's a
Why
system.
why don't you go ahead and define that RFP? What does that mean?
Okay. All right. So a lot of times within doing major calls for artists, whether they be local or sometimes national, they'll do that by having a request for qualifications, an RFQ, and request for proposals, RFP, right? So the RFQ process is just for the artist to submit possible past works that they've done that they feel they could then in turn create for whatever the call for art is, right? So I'm trying to think of something public that Art in Public Places has done as of recent. That would be a good example.
The Metro Rail. The poles underneath the Metro Rail.
Well, no, that would be if we wanted to do something. Let me take you back. So across from the Florida Theater, they just put out this spherical piece by an artist. I forget her name is Miss Shancy. And she was from New York, right? So how did she get selected out of New York? And maybe there was an artist here in our community that could have done the same call, right? Well, one, do they have the qualifications? They're going to look to see, has that artist already put big pieces together? Do they understand how to put a budget? Do you understand the fabricating process? Because just because it's a large piece of work, that doesn't always mean that it was directly created by the hands of the artist that designed it. Because you can go work with another artist, right? Somebody else who you say you want to make like this spherical fan, and they have the mechanics to do that, and now you're hiring them. All of these things. So they're expecting people to have been done most of these works for, a few years. So if you want to now start to do these public works, how do you get a chance to do it? They're not going to select you when they're all together through Sunshine Law. They can't talk about it. They're looking through all of the people who have come in, and then it becomes a dialogue. And then let's don't forget, if you're not acquainted with that art community, you might not be in the room. So you could have several different people who might not even be involved in arts. Like I was always like, wow, this is the committee. Yes, you want a good mix of people. You don't want just artists. But some of the people felt they didn't even know about art, or they didn't understand it, yet they were going to have an opinion on what was going to go out in the public sphere. So after you go through that request for qualifications and they pick several different people, then they go to a proposal process that you then have to now say the thing that it is that you think that you want to do in whatever this space is, and then they select it. These things take upwards to Sorry guys, I got muted. So these things are a very, very, very long process, sometimes a year or two before you even see the artwork that they want to put out there. So they'll start a RFQ process 3 years, and then now you're going to start to see it. Like pretty soon, you'll see something on the Water Street Garage that I had a hand of being on that panel in committee. I can't tell you what was said, but I was on that panel in committee, right? But I was on that 2 years ago. The piece is only just getting done now. So it's too long. And if you have an idea right now, you can't get that through because they're working on something that they were interested in doing 3 years ago. So a lot of times to me, the art doesn't get to be as fresh. Maybe you could have found somebody better. Maybe that idea for that art is no longer the best. But if you wanted to do it over, you'd have to do the process all from the beginning. So dear people, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that at all. And there was so much freedom behind that. This is my yard. I didn't have to write a call. I didn't have to, go through why does this select, but also how does this affect green spaces and what we see when you do want to see maybe more artists that have the idea of doing something more around terra. You go to different places like Atlanta, New York, you'll see public pieces, but they're also more plant life, right? Why aren't we also looking at how we can include more of those artists into this situation than sometimes where they're only just looking at a sculptor or a muralist?
That's fantastic. I think we have a question about the piece behind you. People want to know what that is and what the
Yeah. So you saw one of Roosevelt's Waymaker series, and I'll just quickly say something, and then he can say something too, really quickly about the piece. Well, you know, you can see the piece behind me. You know what's behind me. So there's a piece, a part of Roosevelt's Waymaker series. One of the first ones that he did was in the Lit exhibition that was featured in the Comer. That was around James Weldon Johnson, and then he got selected to be in another group art exhibition. And he created this work to talk about Eartha White. Eartha White is the founder of the Clara White Mission that a lot of you might know that's downtown. That now Jacoby Pittman, who is also our council person, is the executive director of that particular area. And so she loved it when she saw it. And that's Eartha there. And then somebody also said, so you can also see Eartha peeking behind like the blinds, because like the blinds will kind of turn. And then you can see pictures of like what the mission used to look like. She's such an incredible figure, but we don't have any public art for her either, do we? So this is what Roosevelt's project was about. We saw all of these interesting people who did something incredible in Jacksonville, but a lot of times in our nation. The work that Clara did, or that Eartha did for the Clara White Mission, challenged it and brought like one of the first Black orphanages in the city. She also helped with A.L. Lewis to create American Beach. He bought that property, being like one of the first millionaires, because he was one of the founders of the Afro Insurance Company, correct? And so there's all these connections to, again, like these great people who were in their moment in their lifetime, but we want to contemporize them and bring them to our moment in our lifetime. So that's the curator's take on it. The artist will have a much different one.
All right. Well, I think we should go out to the gallery proper and ask Roosevelt to give us a little tour of some of the pieces in the gallery.
All right.
Roosevelt.
Hello. How is everyone doing? Thank you for taking your time out of your day to join us.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can insight y'all. This is the commission piece for the neighborhood. The neighborhood saw what we were doing with our art out in the front, and so they wanted to try to commemorate and not let George Floyd or any other people memories that has gotten I don't want to say, well, I guess murdered or killed in innocence to be forgotten. So that's where this George Floyd is coming, and it's going to say Jacksonville deserves justice. And here on the scroll, it's going to be names, mostly I think youth that were that got murdered here in Jacksonville as well. And I'm just really excited about it because it's going to be facing Fairfax and 14th Street. So it's going to get a lot of foot traffic and a lot of visualization. And I just hope and know that it's going to add a connectivity from this spot to the building that we're doing up on 18th and Myrtle. Thanks to Wayne for offering up his building. And so here we have what I call is my Zodiac series. And they're on doors. I collected these doors. And so this is Cancer. This is Pisces. And this is Taurus. I'm sorry, Aquarius. Sorry, this is Aquarius. And the Zodiac series, it just came about for the want of conversation that art brings. And I think that we all have a relationship to our Zodiac sign. Probably don't study it like we ought to, but just that there's a relationship. And within that relationship, that we can have communication, and dialogue off of something that's a commonality among us. And so this is Taurus. And this is Leo. And this is Scorpio, and Scorpio is having a little fight with the weather here. Sorry.
Tell me
And so it's all,
there are a lot of
it's all
members of
good.
your family that were inspirations for the series, right?
Yes, my grandmother. She's here. She's here in this piece, and so this piece is a tribute to Agnes Vickers, and they would probably have to really look and see, but his face is etched in. This is Stetson Kennedy, and Stetson Kennedy for us had infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan and told America that they have a terrorist organization here. And within this piece is struggle and resistance, and this aspect of us having a continual struggle of being human and treating each other well is what's going on in here. I don't know how far y'all want me to talk about this or what, but
Could you
I
try?
don't want to take up too much time.
Yeah, Roosevelt, could
Yes.
you try adjusting your mic, the piece toward your mouth, and see if that helps a little bit, because it's cutting a little bit in and out. I just want to see if maybe that will help if it's a little closer to your mouth.
Does this help some?
Maybe.
I'm trying to talk. Well, how do you want me to talk about this piece, or?
Please do.
Okay. Well, again, Stetson Kennedy starts off the piece, and then there are the four angels from the four corners of the earth, because, again, struggle and resistance, and my grandmother being patriarch and highly spiritual, which heightens my spiritness from being around her, and just her loving on us. And so these pieces in the work, they're called Tibono, and Tibono means strength, confidence, and persistence. And these are called Ndinka symbols, and they're out of Ghana, the Ashanti people out of West Africa. And so once I had gotten introduced to the Ndinka symbols, Tibono stuck out for me being an African-American male to make it in this art game as an abstract expressionist. The Tibono, the strength, confidence, and persistence that's produced from this, these, I'm sorry I went on a tangent, but these were used in religious exercises and rites of passage. In Africa, they would put on the mud cloth and textiles. And so knowing that and learning that, and it became a tattoo of sorts to me, that I put it into work, which would allow me to have that confidence and strength and persistence to keep producing the work. You know, a lot of times as an abstract expressionist, you know, it's misunderstood, and then people like, I don't get it, you know, but again, the not getting it is what prompts the conversation in my mind. Yeah. And I think it does, because we've got a lot of conversations, and so it's doing its job. And so there's a can opener in here, and the can opener within struggle and resistance, it's representing the idea of action, you know, because you have to actually open the thing, clamp it down, turn it. So within struggle and resistance in our real physical life, you know, we have to activate, and we can open, and we can do. So there's the symbology within that can opener, and the fish. I love fish, but also because of grandmama and spiritualness, God said He'll teach you to be fishers of men. So a lot of times within my abstract work, I am talking to the inner part of man through a metaphysical aspect, and that's why the work is very colorful. I'm trying to dialogue with each chakra center of the body, so that there's a harmony and a balance that comes out of this when there's a dialogue with the work. And Shawana made mention of American Beach, and so A.L. Lewis had the African American insurance company, and so people that were a part of his insurance company had this tag, which I have made copies of, and I do have one original piece. And so I'm using that to reiterate, to cut out, change, just this whole process of time, all that's into the work, within cutting the work, reintroducing parts And the mirror here I use as just a reflective point within the work, you know, to put the person who's viewing the work into the work.
So Roosevelt, we have
Is
a
there
question.
anything else? Did I miss anything? Oh, I didn't see it. What was the question?
We have a question from one of our participants, Chanel Davis Bryant from Groundwork Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us, Chanel. How would a layman viewing
Yeah.
get this context without knowing or having access to the artist? I'm so grateful for this conversation and that the gallery is out in the open so we can have this conversation. So why don't you talk about some of the conversations that the gallery has allowed you to have?
That's the point where in the gallery setting where you have verbiage and the dialogue from the artist that gives an explanation of the work. The title is for the most part like that catalyst. And so I've gotten dialogue because of struggle and resistance and because of a sense of Kennedy, the piece, the Waymaker's piece, they were each in reference of these giants as quilts. So the work is, to me, construction as a quilt because they were like covering the community with their love and with their gung-ho-ness. And so the piece, I guess the controversial part is that the piece is called Nigger Lover. And that's not it. The whole title is Struggle and Resistance. And it's a sonata of 148 beats a minute and then Nigger Lover. So it's a very long title. But being it said Nigger Lover, that's where a lot of the controversy has come. But the Nigger Lover is just the stigma or the name that they would have given Stetson Kennedy as an ally, because he had infiltrated the Klan, and you know you're turning your back on your brothers, and you know you don't do that, you know, to help nobody. You know, families first, and he saw that the human family is first and not the skin color of family, you know, because in African Americans we have the whole gamut from albino to blue to purple, you know, so it's none of that, and it's to see that we're all one. And I think that Stetson did that for me, because I didn't know until I came across him and started doing all this research, you know, that he had done this and he had opened up this door that I could be able to have this dialogue with white people and black people and Asian people and Indian people that was not attributed to me as an African American male. And I think if he did that, and he and Zora Neale Hurston and Rodney Hirsch and the activism that they were doing was just setting the stage so that now we can also be activated, and that's what the 6 Feet Away Gallery is doing. It is a space for us to come and commune in the yard and enjoy the yard, but it's also a space for safe conversation where there's not many places now. You know, it's all the protests and stuff that's happening, but it's to let someone come out and see art and have a true let go about what's going on within themselves. Because a lot of times, even at the gallery setting, it don't always transpire that way. You know, people come talk to the artist, but they don't get this type of talking because we do our community conversation hours on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays. And at that time, you know, people can come out, we can talk, see the work, dialogue with Shawana, vent, you know, because that's really what COVID has caused a lot of us to do, is to start venting and reevaluating ourselves and evaluating our take on this planet.
Wow, you said a mouthful. That was amazing.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
I love it. Shawana, did you want to chime in on this topic as well, the conversation?
Oh yeah, because you know I sorry, y'all can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. So like, you know, yeah, I love conversating. Somebody was like, you couldn't even stop during quarantine. But no, we could not. There's so much, as Roosevelt says, community. And what I find very interesting, you know, is that people are saying like, oh, 6 Feet Away Gallery is this great space for talk about race relations, right? But that's the conversation in our household every day. Like I don't think we don't see a discernment of race conversations. We just see where we are in this in relative to our community, to our world, and the change that we want to be able to enact. We no longer feel that it's comfortable to wait for someone to come out and save you. from that particular topic or issue, right? We can do that work together, but it does take, you know, burying or cutting back layers and layers of different things. And I find that, yes, Bobby, the art does change people's perspectives in so many different ways. We had people come as far as from like Tampa because they heard about the gallery and they were like, wow, they really wanted to be able to share this experience or to come here. And we're very clear, we're just two concerned artists. We're not specifically like professionals or educators where it comes to how to facilitate these conversations, but we all know how to have a conversation and respect someone. And that's where I think that comes. So we had a Juneteenth program that it just happened to fall, as Roosevelt said, we have these artist talks that we try to do twice a week on Wednesdays and Fridays. And that Friday was Juneteenth. So we were having our community conversation. We had over like 100 people come, even though it was raining pretty much the whole time. And one of the questions that I would ask as we had different groups come by was, you know, whose first time was it celebrating Juneteenth? Pretty much everybody. And it wasn't just that we had one particular race of people that were here. We had a variety, but most of those people had not celebrated Juneteenth. And I know it's just because they either weren't aware of the holiday or maybe they didn't feel that they knew it was a celebration, right? So why doesn't our city have a major celebration and like the way that some other metropolitan cities do around this? This is that beginning. We saw even just from how people wanted to be in there, it was amazing. So yes, I think, and I always say this, art can, you know, change minds and hearts because it is this equitizer. I'm being a wordsmith. Yes, I always look for the artist statements and to read them because the artist is not there, right? They're not there normally when you go to the museum. They're not there when you normally go to an exhibition opening, or some of them can be very introverted and don't always love to speak out about their art. You all can see that's not Roosevelt's case. You know, it really is his pulpit to be able to express that. But I love just how one thing rolls into something else that rolls into something else. We were also trying to be respectful, as you all heard the title of the piece. It was necessary for the piece. But at first, when I got concerned about, not like children were coming, because I'm like, you hear worse things from your parents. I don't know what's going on in your household. But it became imperative that in order to speak properly about that piece, we had to put the name out there. I didn't want to take away that and then maybe the conversation about it. And, you know, it wasn't that people, once Roosevelt really explains again, that piece is dedicated to his grandmother, dedicated to the work that Stetson Kennedy did, understanding what Stetson Kennedy did and how that also navigates back to who his grandmother is, right? She was someone who did not shy away from that word. She called it to lots of different people and lots of different opportunities, as did my grandmother, you know. So we come from a household of hearing that word. It's not the controversial way that when other people say it out of hand that it could be, but that was our experience and navigated into it. And so we also offer that space, not for people to say it back, but for us to be able to talk about that different lens, because people come into it like, oh, that word is horrible, you should never say it. And I'm like, I hear you, but that's not how it was expressed in my household. And I never felt that until it came from someone who was outside of that community who wanted to use it as a way to hurt me. So language is so important, right? The dialogue that we have had continuously amazes me. How people really come open. Like we were so lucky that one of my former bosses, even Barbara Gubbin, who is the former director of the library, you know, came by and we just had, again, amazing conversation with her and talking about the community. So many different narratives come up when people come to our house. One is that they can't believe all the beautiful homes in this community, right? Because they only listen to the media and what they think the north side of Jacksonville is. And so we're excited. Yes, it definitely is going to continue in a lot of different ways. At first, it really was this experiment, but the significance of looking at outside and communities and maybe dilapidated spaces that we can reinvigorate for those communities so that they can enjoy it. This is why it's our house, right? So people all across 15th Street come and see it and stop by. I made it for the neighbors. I love that now other people are coming, but at first we just made it just for our neighbors, just so when they walked by, and as they do often, and we ride bikes or we use our cars, they've got this thing that kind of like speaks back to them that says like, hello, like we love you here, and we want the art to help to heal you. So I see this way that people kind of shift within some of their trauma, and I think that's all of us, living in a Western society. None of us can get away from what that trauma is. So it's always really encouraging to have people to honor us with that and to share it with us.
Thank you. Shawana, a quick question, because you're talking about these visitors, and obviously with this gallery right in your side yard, have you noticed that there's been some, since you've gotten this national attention, has that changed the visitor makeup at all?
Um,
No,
yeah, well, I don't, I would say yes,
I think it's just
again,
more.
more, and it's also who's very attracted and feels connected to art, right? So a part of this project really was to, again, help to communicate to the neighbors who I know don't go to the Cummer, don't go even to the Ritz, don't go to Mosh. Art is not in their lives in that way, but it is, right? They got pictures in their house, they got pictures of their family. We all love art. Again, we just don't always value artists. So Damien, yeah, very much to your question. It was like, how again do we see now that like more people from different sides of towns are coming that again would have never came over to this
Never
community,
came.
or
Yeah.
would have never assumed they had a reason to come over to this community. So what I'm just saying again is just people outside of our own, which again shows you that people will go where they want to go when they want to go there. If there's something good enough, or if they're really excited or passionate about being there, it hasn't stopped none of them from coming by. And so normally we do those community conversations on Wednesday. We were doing them from 1 to 4. I think we're going to switch back from 4 to 7 because it's so hot. And then also on Fridays, 4 to 7. But if you go to our website, www.6feetaway, and it's feet like FT, awaygallery.com, or one of our social media platforms, we have all that information for you on there.
Very cool. When we talked earlier, we had a conversation about the meaning of black versus white in the worlds of arts, in the worlds of gardening, and in society. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about that, because I thought that was so beautiful, the way you two expressed that idea.
You want to lead off, Roosevelt?
You take it.
Okay. I mean, one, we always talk about the value colors of black and white, right? So black again being encompassing of all color, and then white always being like the like of non-color. You just find those again when you look on the color wheel. Black and white are. Oh, now you want to speak. Now you have something to say, honey.
Oh no, somebody
just,
by.
okay.
There's somebody
Okay. Okay, never mind. Sorry. So those things are always kind of interest. I think again, black and white relations are so inextricably bound. How do you again steal a whole group of people and enslave them, put them in your houses, and have them be a part of a whole society in which you're also included but not included. They made your food, they cleaned your beds, they watched out for your children, they picked your profits. This didn't just happen in the South, this was also within the North. So when people think about where we are now, I'm like, we're still where we were then. It very much is incredulous to me, but I get that people come into things as their life experience comes into them. We're no longer married to each other in that way, right? But we still do. We either segregate ourselves in the way that we have our friendships, we have our church members, we have you don't mean to. You're around the people who are in your life, but I think you have to look around at why aren't these other people also included, and where can you make space for them? If you're saying that there's an opportunity for there to be a galvanized conversation. And so we're always looking at like these dichotomies within these two things. And I always say, I think this is more what you wanted me to talk about, Denise, so I'll go there, which is like race, right? There's no white land. Nobody comes from white world. We can't find white anywhere on the map. There's nothing that's white. But you've got Germany, you've got Spain, you've got Italy, you've got all these other places. And I think it's really interesting what was given up to gain whiteness, to blanket you all within non-culture, where you have again African Americans that were disconnected from their culture and are always looking for a way to get back, like to a little bit of where you came from. we just know now, like, okay, maybe a lot of people were enslaved from West Africa. Is that Ghana? Is that Nigeria? Like, where did you come from exactly? And if you don't have the means to even do that kind of research, like, we all can't get on that beautiful show on PBS, like, where are your roots? So if Mr. Gaines isn't coming to help you out with your family tree, you're going to be at a little bit of a loss to even get that kind of information. So we do connect back to the whole continent of Africa, and that way we do look for pieces, within that, and that whole kind of diaspora, because Blackness is a culture all over the world, regardless of where you live. Whiteness doesn't seem to be in that same value, though. So I just always think it's so interesting. What did we give up to be Black and white, and who needed somebody to be Black against white? Because unless you need that, you don't have the break of the other, right? So if people were still honoring how they came over here in the first place through their German heritage, through their English heritage, you would still be a lot more connected to those customs and cultures. But we gave up something where we needed people to be Black and white.
Boom. That was amazing.
And that's why I didn't start off. She had it all in a nutshell.
Well, we got a lot of questions coming in reference to the conversations. I mean, you mentioned being available on Fridays, but is there a schedule when you're available to have a conversation to talk? What time are the conversations on Friday? Give us
from 4 to 7.
From 4 to 7, and then on the Wednesdays we do them. We're going to start doing them from 4 to 7 because we're so sorry when people come over and they're sweating to death. So
I'll tell you.
Summer hours we're moving, and we'll keep it. We keep it going as long as the people want to keep it going. Some days, every now and again we don't get anybody, but most days we get a few somebodies, and we still get people throughout the week. But because we do have both lives and other jobs and things that we're doing, we try to ask people to be respectful of the days that we're doing the community conversations, unless you have a larger group, and then we honor them coming over. So we have had that. We've had like summer school camps come by and safely social distance themselves and come and visit the library. We've had church groups come by and talk. We've had organizations gather themselves and say they want to bring out their people. I think it's so interesting to see how we all are valuing each other in this time and trying to look for those ways of connectivity. So I don't think we're going anywhere, and we're definitely trying to change again the way that other institutions get navigated to this work, because if they don't, we're just going to do it anyway. So we're just excited to be able to navigate that promise for ourselves and to work with people, like-minded folks who are so interested in what our business model is doing and how they can be supportive. So and we're right off the S line. If you come down, you get to see the beautiful mosaic that Rue Arts did, and then you can travel all the way down 13th. I love a good bike ride around this neighborhood, honestly. It just fills my heart with so much joy to just see people again. Like, we're like any other community and neighborhood that you would ride or go through, and I've ridden through and been in them all. So I just think that opportunity to change people's perspectives is been really enjoyable.
I want to share something because I think it's perfect for this, especially given the fact that we're talking about a different type of landscape. One of my favorite quotes is by a French novelist, and I'm putting it in the chat. It says, "The real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscape, but in having new eyes." So based on what I'm hearing today, your conversations, your challenges that you've had with your neighborhood, your yard, you are providing a bit of sight for people, through your art and through the conversation. So great.
And let me also encourage all of you beautiful green thumb people. We're not opposed to plants. If y'all look, you want to give them, you want to drop them off the 6 feet away gallery, you want to donate them, you want to come in the back and help us to start up a pop up, garden. Look, we want it,
We want to do the 5-gallon bucket plant thing. And we need to know how. That was going to be my question. I guess
you should have showed them Mr. Marvin's yard. We have neighbor MB of our neighbor's yard. Roosevelt's going to show it to you really quickly. He's got beautiful over there. We're always like, Roosevelt, you're going to have to say something. But it's so hard to see his yard looking beautiful over here. That's why we had to put the art up, because we were like, we don't have any. We need something beautiful.
Bobby said that she's going to bring you a succulent that you cannot kill.
You better bring it, Bobby, and I bet you I can. But we're gonna try it. We're gonna try
kill
it.
it. I bet you want to still kill it.
Oh, it's fake. Then you're correct. But I might. It might just get very dirty.
So, Shawana,
Oh yes.
See it?
Here we go.
Can you see it?
Let's see.
Oh yes.
I'm
Lemon
going to
grass.
talk so we can see your screen. Say
Can you
something.
see it?
Roosevelt, say something. Yes. So yes. So
Can y'all
see,
see it? Can you see the
beautiful.
yard?
It's lush. It's grass. He's got these beautiful, almost like like little small
He got
banana
an
leaf
elephant ears.
trees. Right.
got a
He's done
banana
everything
over there.
right. Yeah.
Right.
We have. So we were really trying to compete with him. We were like, oh, you think your yard is nice? Boom.
So, Shawana, tell us about the next plans for the gallery. What's coming up next?
Yeah. So we were like, we can't. We're renters, right? So who knows if we'll always stay in this place, but the gallery comes with us no matter what, right? So through the provocation and also noticing that we just didn't have anything like this in our city, I decided to go ahead and make 6 Feet Away Gallery an actual business. It's officially an LLC. Yay for me, it's my first business. And so it
Yay.
officially handles all of the things that we love doing, which is helping to create exhibitions, helping to place make, doing lectures and panelists, and also helping to hone more community organized events, whether they be in our backyard or whether they're also somewhere close to where we live and navigate. We want to be able to, again, bring more people to art instead of always trying to force them to go to that art. So one of the biggest things that we had is, I don't have to tell most of you all, it's an election season. We're getting ready to have our primaries and also our national elections. And I find that there is a lot of apathy in the Black community around voting, sincerely in Jacksonville, and especially for local elections. It's not for me to tell anybody who to vote for. All I want to do is give you, a drink of water. Do you understand when to vote? Do you know when it's coming up? Do you know about, the early elections? Do you know about mail-in elections? How can we also work with a lot of the advocacy groups that might need us as a resource to use our art? So we have now been granted the permission from an amazing business owner off of Myrtle to turn like this really old kind of community warehouse that's been in the community for decades, to clean it up and to now do 3 major murals on it. The building is huge. The front side alone is maybe 150 feet long. And so we have hired 10 visual artists and 10 what we call amplifying artists to be a part of this project. So we're calling it ColorJax Blue. The visual artists will be creating physical art, as in the mural, and there'll also be we'll be creating a digital exhibition, and we'll be creating yard signs and hopefully some billboards. And we're going to be doing that from now up to November to encourage people to get out there and vote. So we're excited. The mural should hopefully start, if the rain would cooperate. We wanted to start on it by this Saturday or this weekend, but we're probably going to extend it to next week. But hopefully, again, for sure, next week. We've got some amazing partners like Jacksonville Development Coalition, New Florida Majority, Yellow House, Sunbelt is even helping to give us also some lifts for the artists to use. And this is really about community engagement. We have been cleaning up the building. We have hired predominantly other Black artists and organizations and businesses to help with, pressure washing, painting, cutting down trees. And so landscaping. So this is why we're so excited, again, to talk to you all, because once the project is done, the next thing that we want to do to make it this beautiful, walkable community, lived experience space is to do some slight planting of some native things around. And the owners, again, giving us permission to do that too. So we see there could be a lot of ways for us to collaborate still in the future.
We know a couple people at the Garden Club who we can put you in contact with, who can actually help get you started. So,
Shawana, what is the address of the mural that you're talking about?
Oh, 2700 Myrtle Avenue. 2700 Myrtle Avenue.
2702.
Well, you could use either 2700 or 2702, but the 2700 block of Myrtle Avenue.
Yeah.
It's
right at the railroad tracks.
Right. If you've ever been down Myrtle and you've crossed over those railroad tracks, it's literally that building that they used to call it the Red Sign Warehouse. It's been a community warehouse, and I think even one time the Navy owned it and had it for their storage place, but now somebody else owns it. An artist who used to work for, doing assemblage art for like
Applebee's.
restaurants, Applebee's, Ruby Tuesdays. And so he's been gracious enough to let us have this whole building and to talk back to our community in the way that we see fit. That's a curator's dream. There are normally, again, so many different ways to navigate, or you can't say this, or you can't put this up, or you don't want to offend this person, or you don't want to do this. It's all the artists. We have 3 different teams. They're all working together to create it's 3 different pieces, but it's going to be one collaborative piece that speaks to voter engagement, Black women, past and present, who've been involved, and then also the injustices of Jacksonville.
That's amazing. I can't wait to see more of that. And I definitely will be talking to you about the landscaping element as well. I could talk to you guys all day, and we often do.
Right.
Today, we have to wrap it up. So, what are some parting thoughts you wanted to leave with us before we leave?
Roosevelt, do you want to start first?
I mean, my parting thing is just thank you guys for experiencing this with us. We thank you guys for your energy and for your love and your motivation, and just that, we are all we got, meaning the human family on this earth, and we have to take care of this planet, and we have to take care of one another. That's what I have to say. Just love on each other. Well, I guess 6 feet away from each other.
For now.
But yeah.
For now. And then, I guess I would just like to say, also again, thank you guys for having us in your homes. And for those of you who are at home or in your car or, wherever you are listening to this conversation. I came into this, in this arts community and doing this job, just again, wanting to be in the room where it happens, wanting to understand these processes and why people why my husband was so frustrated with why wasn't he being shown as much locally as people were having a taste for him nationally. He just loves his city, and he just really wanted to put on for Jacksonville and for people to be aware of who he was and the art that he was making. And I found that to be a conversation that was concurrent to all artists, regardless, of their racial background. But where I found that I could be helpful, where I could be instrumental, was that I knew that I had a voice that I could be able to speak and engage and talk up for the introverts and the extroverts, to make a difference for them. And it was, people like, Damien, like Denise, who were, gracious enough, even when they had other roles than the current roles they have now, to listen and to be active and to not be dissuasive or say, no, ma'am, you don't have an art degree. You haven't studied as a curator. I appreciate the public library for that opportunity. And what I'm saying is that we all can be those kind of change agents, right? Stop sometimes worrying about the way that somebody looks down on paper and on a resume and see, do they have the thing in them to get going? Sometimes, again, we all need a helping hand. I don't like to ever talk about somebody coming up by their bootstraps, because even if you came up by them bootstraps, where'd you find those boots at? Who helped with those soles? There's always a helper in the mix. So yeah, look for the helpers, but also look how you can be that influential helper. There's so many different Black people who want to be more engaged in agriculture and gardening. That was literally a law, again, that was taken away from them. If you look back, you'll see the systematic changes that have us as a result. So let's just all be a little bit more open and encouraged to support one another and to see the beauty and value, but also where can we resource one another and help, So thank you guys for your help with spreading more awareness for what we're doing in our community and for, I think, what we're doing for Jacksonville. We love Jacksonville.
That's right. And we love you. Okay, Damien, let's give her the hug. Ready? Woo, woo, woo. That's the hug.
Woo, woo, woo. Okay, I love it.
Woo, 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 woo.
I know I do like this.
So that we can talk about a couple of things coming up here. So let me share that. And so we have the next programs coming up are A Garden to Remember. Richard Cirillo, who is president of the AIDS Memorial Project of Northeast Florida, has been working to improve Willow Branch Park for several years. His organization has planted trees in the park to commemorate those who died of HIV/AIDS. Now they have a plan to create the Centennial Garden featuring native plantings in addition to public art and reforestation. So that's going to be a really cool program. That's 6:30 p.m. July 14th. And Damien is going to add that link to the chat. So if you want, you can click on that and register for that right now. Also, we have a car wash that we're doing to help support this very project. They had this idea, they wanted to do a car wash. They asked if they could do it in our back parking lot. And so we'll be here this Saturday, July, what is that, July 11th? Yes, July 11th, sorry. So if you need your car washed and you're tired of it raining all the time, maybe this will be the thing that will keep it from raining for a couple of days. And Damien is going to add that link to the chat as well. And then we have another program called Make Your Garden a Habitat with Bill Berthett, who is an amazing gardener and yard keeper. He basically has created a habitat in his backyard that has won awards from the St. John's River Keeper. And he's going to give a tour of this incredible environment that he's created to attract all sorts of living creatures like these beautiful butterflies. And you can learn how you can do it for your own yard. There's also, I wanted to mention, there's a Gardening for Pollinators program. It's a multi-part program done through the UF IFAS Extension Office. You can enroll through August 15th. It's just $15. And you'll learn a lot from that. It could be a really fun little way to distract yourself this summer. And if you are with us and you're not a member of the Garden Club, you know what? It's never a bad time to join the Garden Club. We need people like you to help us grow with us is our motto. You'll join others who have a deep connection to the environment and gardening and green spaces and want to get to know other people like yourselves. So Damien will add that link to the chat as well. We always do surveys of all of our programs. We want to know what you think of our programs, what you thought of today's speakers, what kind of programs you want to see in the future. And you can also tell us little things like, what times of day work for you and that sort of thing. So please take that survey. It'll be in the chat, and we'll also send it out to everybody who participated in today's program afterward. Once again, I want to thank the Jessie Ball DuPont Fund for making programs like this possible. They were really instrumental in helping us get this off the ground, and we're so thankful for that. And I want to thank my colleague and buddy and partner in crime, Damien Lamar Robinson, for being a great co-host.
It's always a pleasure. I learned so much every single time.
And I want to thank all of you for attending. We can't do shows like this without you. Well, if we did, we'd be talking to ourselves, and that's no fun. So thank you for being here, and have a great evening. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, guys.